Are you seeing this pattern as well? Guys, the last 2 times in Bitcoin's history that we saw global liquidity spike at the same rate it is now, whilst the Dixie was simultaneously falling at the same percentages it is now. Guys, Bitcoin didn't just have a small casual pump. It went absolutely parabolic, and you best bet it took altcoins along with it. But here's what makes this moment particularly so critical. We're seeing multiple very important indicators converging at once. For example, the RSI is showing the exact same consolidation pattern we saw before the last major breakout in October of last year. We've just blown out of a downtrend that's been holding prices back since Trump took office in January of this year. And obviously, Bitcoin's dominance is capping out right now at highs we typically see right before alt season. That's an accumulation of all these very important indicators. So in this video, I'm going to be breaking down exactly what is happening with Bitcoin right now. Before we get into it though, do not forget, if you find yourself enjoying this content and appreciate the up-to-date urgent information, hit that like button and make sure you are subscribed with that bell on, and let's kick on. So first of all, the chart behind me is the Bitcoin cycle clock, which I created, that aggregates 16 on and off chain indicators to give us one score, so we don't have to worry about the crazy volatile price action of Bitcoin. We know green is cheap, so green is good to buy, blue is better to buy, and red or dark red is even worse. All right, get out of the market, take some profits. But we're not looking at the colors in the overall grading today because we are still easily in cool. Hot comes around at about 50%. What we're looking at here is the lines on this chart, which is the moving averages. I'll remove the colors so it's a bit easier for everyone to see at home, but essentially, while Bitcoin loves to use some of these lines as key support levels, like the 1-year moving average has historically been, it also loves to use them as resistance, okay? So it's seeing that right now with this blue line. This blue line is the 100-day moving average. And what I've noticed based on history is that every time the purple line, which is the 50, consolidates with the 200 here in red, you can see how close they get. They get very close, don't exactly touch, and then we have this massive shoot up in price. This happens every single time, all right? You can see here, again, the purple line gets very close to the red line, doesn't actually touch, and then what happens is we have price spike above the 200, breaks out above the 200, and then we kind of have it consolidate, retest the 200 twice, and then actually break out. That sort of same pattern you can see actually here in price itself. It kind of broke out of that trend line at that same moment and took off. So what we're seeing right now is the break of this downtrend, as we saw the break of this downtrend at the moment. All what I'm waiting for here is the retest, but I think the retest will come, as we saw with this, once it breaks above the 100, or again, at least just stays above the 200. Okay, so it's exhibiting the exact same behaviors as it did back here, but on a much sharper time frame. Even back further over here, okay, the same thing happened. The 50 coiled with the 200, actually went just beneath the 200. And then once it did though, price actually said, you know what, time to break out. And so price broke out, went just beneath the 200, and then actually had that huge spike, and again, like 3 or 4x at that point, something crazy. But it's not just price. The RSI and the MACD are also showing signs of bullish reversals. They're getting stronger again, which is a good sign. We've seen this exact same sign play out at this exact same moment we're in right now regarding the moving averages in the last 2 pumps. Okay, so I'm talking about this pump over here we saw kind of in October of 24, and this one over here we saw again back in about 2023. Now, most of you guys know how the MACD and RSI indicators work, but essentially this blue line here is the RSI line, okay, for this chart, and it's the MACD line for this. The orange line is the moving averages, okay? And so basically, when the RSI goes beneath the midpoint, that means average losses are higher than average gains. So it's bearish. And so what's happening here is that, of course, we're breaking out of that midpoint right now. At the same time, the MACD is finding a sort of bottom. Now, the RSI will always find a reversal first because the RSI is a leading indicator, whereas the MACD is a lagging indicator. So you'll notice a reversal come on the RSI first and kind of be confirmed on the MACD. And that's exactly what is happening right now. We are seeing, again, this shift from bearish to bullish by the breakout of the RSI line here. And it's not all sunshine and rainbows just yet. We have to obviously break back above the moving average line here and, of course, continue. But it is a good first step, and it's the exact same first step we saw happening over here and over here. But to summarize that long story, essentially, as we are seeing the moving averages coil and then break out, as we are seeing price, again, break out of the downtrend, as we're also now seeing both the RSI and the MACD exhibit the exact same behaviors it did in the two previous breakouts, things are lining up again to be very, very similar as it was before. The stablecoin versus Bitcoin relationship as well is exhibiting the exact same behavior as it did back then as well. We recalled, went beneath the midpoint over here, so stablecoins had strength over Bitcoin. We then blew back up above to find a new local high each and every single time. I'm not holding my breath though. Of course, this is just one of the many single signs that say that we actually have had a healthy reset and we really can now move up if the macro conditions allow us to. And that's one thing I wanted to mention. Like, guys, as good as this all is, all right, unfortunately, if Trump comes out tomorrow and tweets one single thing that disrupts this bullish momentum, it's going to send things in a bit of a mayhem, okay? But before we move into some more bullish stuff, because there is more bullish macro stuff, I want to quickly mention the Bitcoin and the volatility index chart you're looking at right here. The purple line is Bitcoin's market cap versus the volatility index, and the blue line is the 50-day moving average. Now, I am not completely sold on a true change in momentum, like us actually going up from here, until we have the purple line cross above the blue line. Now, that's more of a lagging indicator. I do think that what we'll notice here is, as it did in the past, we'll actually notice a few of these important trends break first, like these ones I'm showing you here, and also some of these ones here, like using these moving averages as support. But this is more so a confirmation for me that, yes, we are finally breaking out from this slump, okay, and all signs will be green at that point in time. We, of course, can't forget to mention, as almost every video does at this point, the M2 supply basically moving up, all right? So M2 is a subsidiary, basically, of the cash around the world. It's liquid cash, essentially. So this moving up insinuates there's more money sloshing around people's bank accounts, which, of course, somehow in some way may find its way into crypto and Bitcoin. So this is the 108-day lead here. It's what I personally use. It's the best mathematical fit, but other people have found success using this one, which is the 70 to 77-day lead. It's much of a muchness. As long as it's going up, which you can see right now, it's forming even newer highs, then I'm very happy about that. The stars are aligning as they have in the past. And so what I'm personally looking at here is for us to break up to the top side of this ascending channel, to the top trend line, right? That'd be a very, very healthy indicator for me. Okay, I wouldn't even matter at that point if we come back down again sometime between now and Trump's end of the 90-day tariff pause, which is happening in about 80 days from now, because what that means is it'll look very, very similar to one of the previous cycles, which is the 2015-2017 cycle here, ascending channel, where we had about 4 to 5 touch points on the top side before actually breaking out. Now, if you're like, what's this chart that Kyron's pulled up? What's this ascending channel he's talking about? Well, I've done a lot of research into the macro stuff ever since we've been in this whole Trump tariff escapade. And what I've noticed is this cycle is completely the same as the rest, guys. People are freaking out without looking at the facts, I think, personally speaking. And what I've noticed here is that these ascending channels play out every single time. Similar patterns are exhibited each and every single time. The last cycle, of course, was the kind of the black sheep because it was cut too soon, started too early, and everything else about it was a bit off, right? But essentially, this cycle looks very similar to the previous ones, right? Especially the 2015 to 2017 channel here. And why that's important, because at the moment, we're at the exact same length as we were in the 2015 bull run. You can see here 1,253 days and 889 days. That kind of, was the breakout moment for this cycle. And why that's important is because I think we'll lengthen from here. I don't think we'll be the exact same as 2 cycles ago. I think cycles are supposed to lengthen, especially with the adoption we've seen. And so that just makes the most amount of sense to me. So for me, I'm looking here for us to break above, touch, and again, kind of like this consolidation before actually finding that move. And what will actually happen then is alt season. So what I've noticed is the Bitcoin dominance falls off at the exact moment or thereabouts of the breakout of the channel. And why that's important is because that causes alt season, right? So we're all here like thinking about alt season. Well, again, alt season comes once Bitcoin has enough strength for whatever host of reasons to break out. I've used this chart here to kind of show that as well, the same ascending channels every cycle. And you can see in this sort of, candlestick pattern behind the orange line, which is Bitcoin's price, us go eventually into full-blown alt season. So yeah, Bitcoin right now is at literally cycle highs just about, if you ignore this peak over here, almost at 65%. The question of where it will land, no one knows, but I do think we continue to see Bitcoin dominance gain strength until we literally break out of this ascending channel, guys. So that's what I'm eyeing off, and that's what you should be looking at as well. Now, global liquidity isn't the exact same as global M2. It incorporates global M2, but it's not exactly the same thing. If you've seen this chart behind me by Cross-Border Capital, what I've done here is created the exact same chart in the bottom, right? This is the global liquidity cycle, but of course, we can observe it in real time. So again, all available in the private community. And the good news is that we're actually trending up, just like Bitcoin's been trending up in this ascending channel as well. So it's the same sort of thing, which to me makes a lot of sense, right? And at the same time as well, we're noticing that the global business cycle is actually slowing down a little bit. Now, it depends who you ask, but the global business cycle right now is technically, again, in expansion, which means it's above the midpoint. This shows it's actually below the midpoint. So again, it depends who you ask, but needless to say, I think with the tariffs that have, again, recently just like taken everyone by surprise, okay, it's pushing this down even further, okay? So we're going back into contraction. Now, I don't think it's a bad thing because what I've noticed is, and it makes the most amount of sense, global liquidity often has the highs preceding the global business cycle. So normally we'll have an influx in global liquidity, and that'll help bring up the business cycle, which is this blue line. Now, the business cycle is just a pulse on how businesses are doing in that last month. So if this goes up, businesses are doing well. And what that often means is people spending money. Okay. So that's, of course, a sign of, consumer confidence. Now, a big contributor of this is I think that interest rates aren't being cut in the US, and Trump's getting very, very annoyed with Powell, and he's also threatened to fire Powell. So we'll see how that progresses, but we do have some very important updates regarding the business cycle, which is these PMI updates in the coming days, which actually will literally be in the next 1.5 to 2 days from the upload of this video. So Australia, Japan, Europe, and for some reason the French have been similar out here in Europe, but we have the UK and also the US have their flash PMI update, and that's pretty much just like the prelim update before the major actual official update about a week after this. So we'll have a very, very good idea of what this global business cycle looks like after that. I do think that eventually it will go up, but I think we possibly here might have to see some more short-term slight downside. A lot of the forecasts here are coming in ever so slightly lower. And that's, I think, a big contributor because of the tariffs, right? S&P Global here pointing out that the tariffs have thrown a massive spanner in the works for many, many businesses. But the fact that inflation continues to fall, okay, while Powell is being quite stubborn about not pulling down interest rates, I do think that as the CME Fed tool here predicts, we're still going to see quite a lot of rate cuts happening, and this may even ramp up as Trump looks to get rid of Powell. If he gets rid of Powell, that might actually be a very bullish thing for markets because let's say someone takes his place that is pretty good friends with Trump, or at least recognizes that rates should be being cut right now, and they start to fall like flies. Well, then that's obviously going to support something like the global business cycle, because the business cycle will go up when rates drop, likely. Of course, because consumers have easier borrowing capabilities, right? Rates are much lower. It's going to spruce up the market. What comes from there is, of course, alt season. Alt season comes when this blue line goes up because that means that people have capital. Now, if you combine that with this growing presence in global liquidity, of course, lower rates should also support this. This will go through the roof. This will then hopefully go through the roof. You're going to have alt season at that point in time. We're not quite there just yet, but we definitely could be very close. What we're also seeing is the Dixie falling at a very rapid rate. I made a video a few days back. It was around just under 10%. Now it just spiked down to over 11% from where it was back in January. So it's falling at the same rate it was back here in 2017, back here in 2020, and back here in 2022. And if you have a good memory, you'll know that this is always lined up here, or at least preceded the start of the massive rally. Actually, if I pull up this chart here, you'll see that when the Dixie itself begins falling, we actually end up having that, again, that reversal at the same moment that the Dixie again starts falling. So back here in 2020, again, its last touch in this ascending channel over here, the Dixie hit a local high and then just fell, and that helped push Bitcoin in accumulation with everything else I've mentioned out of this ascending channel, okay, causing again alt season. The same thing again happened over here, the last final touch, the local high, and that really rapid bleed in the Dixie, and then obviously followed by, the Bitcoin. Now, again, at that same moment, Bitcoin dominance does peak as well, so it's good for altcoins. So I'm not calling this the breakout to end all breakouts, but it's just crazy how, the stars have aligned. Again, guys, keep your eyes glued to the screen. I can't stress enough. Maybe it is a fake out. Maybe we fall back down into the rut of things. But like the downside is what? You've watched the market a little bit too closely over the last few days. Now, I wouldn't go panic buy. I wouldn't go buy altcoins that are up like 10, 20%, 40% on the week right now. You've put in the money you've put in. Eye it off. There will be plenty of opportunities to look at desang along the timeline. And one thing I'll finish up on here is fear and greed. The fear and greed is picking back up again. And I've noticed the sentiment on Twitter is starting to come back, right? We're starting to see more positivity yet again. Everyone's starting to go, well, hey, actually, maybe the bear market won't really happen. Maybe we are about to have a bull run. And I actually would agree with that, because Bitcoin, again, has supported these very important bull run lines, the moving averages, the trend lines, and also the indicators here to prove a lot of strength. We aren't out of the woodwork, but again, I've said it 3 times, I think already, right? Stay glued in. All right, this is very, very crucial right now. So with that being said, thank you all for watching this video and making it the whole way through. If you have, hit that like button. Make sure you are subscribed, of course, to stay up to date when it matters. And I'll talk to you tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.